Chapter 29. The momentum slowed and the engines dulled, and Ash gradually woke. Redas had seen them back to Balfonheim aboard his own ship and invited them to stay the night, but after witnessing what she had at Draklar, the princess had chosen to go in search of Giruvegan immediately, though she soon discovered that she was indeed in need of rest. Her cortege, however, had learned better than to argue with her, and thus they had flown all night and well into the next day, clumsily following the rough map and constantly coming up empty. The subtle noises of the Stral's landing routine at last announced their arrival, though she did not know entirely where, and heading into the cockpit, she quickly realized that no one else did, either.
"A floating island,"
Balthier said in answer to her inquiries.
"Ujerba?"
she asked.
"No. Up north of Arcadia, like the on the map. We've mostly been following Fran's nose the last half hour or so."
The princess turned to Fran, who flicked her ears a bit and shut off the last of the Stral's power.
"Mist is congregating here. It reflects the ocean and the sky, so the island seems invisible. We damn near crashed into this bloody rock,"
Balthier added, stepping into the hall. The others followed after him, Vaughn with unbridled giddiness that served to minimally lighten the atmosphere. Disembarking, they found the island to be made of lavender-hued stone, blue in some areas, white in others, and the air to be dense with chilling mist that cleared their throats with every breath, but blocked their view after only a few meters.
"Not quite what I expected,"
Bosch noted.
"Yeah,"
said Vaughn.
"What's so scientific about this?"
Fran shook her head with deftly, drawing in a deep breath, and Penelo stepped up with tepid concern.
"What is it, Fran?"
She slowly blinked, surveying what was visible and listening for what was not.
"The mist runs thick here,"
she said quietly.
"Like on the Leviathan?"
Vaughn asked. And at this she smiled airily.
"Don't worry. I will behave myself. You're not going to go mad on us later on, though?"
Ash pressed.
"This is different,"
Fran explained.
"This mist is cooled. In all honesty, Princess, I feel that I should be the least of your concerns. I sense something like a shadow here."
"Vina," Balthier all but whispered. Suddenly the mist parted, like a clearing amid the thick of a wood, and they saw before them a great stone arch that soared high above their heads, its pearly shine gleaming in the cold sun and its face engraved with ancient runes that bore no meaning to any present.
"Well,"
Balthier said at length.
"That's convenient." "Whoa!"
Vaughn ran toward it, Penelo chasing after him warily.
"Vaughn, be careful. It's huge,"
he exclaimed, proving his observation as he neared the structure. By his estimate, the Stral could easily fly through it with room to spare.
"Who built this?" "Only the Arcadians have been here,"
said Bosch.
"As far as we know,"
added Ash. The others approached the massive stone sculpture while Vaughn and Penelo dared to touch it, and then to climb it, though neither got far on the slick surface. It appeared to be hewn of a single stone, and it shone with a fine polish which at times seemed to lend it a crystalline quality that faded with the shifting of the mist. The inscriptions varied from blocky to curly, from geometric to quill-like. None could determine the purpose of the arch, for the mist obscured their view of what lied beyond, but it seemed invariably an entryway, as Ash wandered from the clearing that surrounded it into the clouds of mist and found sturdy walls on either side.
"Princess,
she heard Bosch scold from somewhere amid the silvery white ocean.
"I won't go far,"
she groaned in reply.
"Don't be difficult."
Rolling her eyes while she knew he could not see it, she stepped out into the open beside him.
"I thought I was the royal one,"
she stated, folding her arms.
"All the more reason not to go missing,"
he replied with a nod. The mist closed in behind the group, separating them from the strawl, though not by so great a distance as to garner much worry. Still, though, the others doubled back to the end of the clearing to investigate, leaving Ashalia and Bosch alone beside the right leg of the archway.
"Do you think we should turn back?"
she asked, watching the others.
"I think we never should have come here,"
he answered, watching her.
"But you're the royal one."
Noticing that she stared not at the group, but solely at Balthier, he continued,
"He's been awfully quiet lately. It's hard for him."
He paused for a moment, studying the gentility of her face and the intensity of her gaze, then asked in a genuinely surprised, yet borderline happy tone.
"Seriously?" "What?"
She turned to him, eyes wide and voice angry.
"No. Don't be ridiculous."
Suddenly Penelo walked by.
"Since when is Bosch ridiculous?"
Bosch smiled and followed her toward the arch.
"Just one of those days, I suppose." "That can't be good,"
Vaughn added as he passed Ashalia. She watched silently as they left her, as Balthier's stony expression gave way to his usual cocky disguise upon hearing their calls. Ridiculous. That, she told herself, was exactly the right word. And yet, just as she thought this, Fran neared her side.
"Ridiculous isn't always what it seems,"
she noted, flicking her ears a bit.
"It is this time,"
Ash replied, taking stride after the others.
"Well?"
Vaughn asked, pawing the ground beneath the entrance.
"Are we going in?"
Ash studied him, insignificant and mouse-like beneath the high-rising stone, but nevertheless astonishingly eager to experience the unknown. Penelo appeared leery, tepidly fluttering behind him as she found nervous distraction in playing with her yellow hair, and Bosch and Fran both seemed ready to act on orders, equally curious and wary. The princess briefly searched Balthier's eyes, finding well-masked fear and the hope that she would choose more wisely than his father had. Suddenly she caught movement beyond the archway, a glistening figure, perhaps reflected in the mist. He wavered slightly, both in presence and in movement, and then turned to face her, as though he had heard her calling out to him, though she felt for sure that she hadn't. Then, as clearly as she had seen him on their wedding day, she recognized Rasslor, though his image once again faltered amid the dense fog between them. Fading briefly, he seemed to have disappeared, but she soon spied him once again, more distant, walking away from her as the mist closed in behind him, concealing the path to him. A far-off call sounded, her name, she was sure of it, and she promptly stepped forward, seeking to follow before she lost sight of him completely, though she did as soon as she moved.
"Ash?"
Bosch asked.
"Come on,"
she replied, not bothering to slow her pace or even glance back at him.
"Could be dangerous,"
Balthier noted. Bosch shrugged.
"Then we can't let her go alone." "Come on, Balthier,"
Vaughn added giddily.
"Princess runs this show, remember." "And as always,"
Balthier replied,
"we go out of our way to appease her royal pain in the highness."
Beyond the great stone entryway, they found a maze of high-walled tunnels, lit by magicite and watched over by ornate carvings that loomed in the dim shadows of the ceiling. Mist wafted through the winding corridors, and condensation glistened on the walls, though no plants grew in its wake. The gleam of the stone matched that of the arch that had welcomed them, though it now seemed natural to the material, for such thick polishing proved a rarity even in the halls of royalty and religion. Ash thought it similar to her old home, though it likely held even higher value, and could not help but derive subtle comfort from it. Vaughn and Penelo chased their reflections on the surface of the walls, occasionally finding no wall where they expected one, but instead a metallic cloud of mist, which never ceased to stun and then amuse all present. No trace of any recognizable culture presented itself, keeping all preoccupied with thoughts pertaining to who, or what, could have constructed the grand monument they haplessly navigated, and at what time and to what purpose. They found themselves huddling closer and closer together, though maintaining a distance of courtesy, and even the children slowed their gait so as to remain within eye and ear range of the others. The mist perpetually blocked their path, and the glow of the magicite often replicated its illusions, giving form to 2 or 3 sets of reflections at a time, always vanishing before anyone could grant them thorough study.
"I can't shake the feeling we're not supposed to be here,"
Penelo said at length.
"Yeah,"
answered Vaughn.
"Kind of exciting." "Exciting? Come on,"
he coaxed.
"Where's your sense of adventure?" "Hiding behind my sense of caution,"
she suggested. He laughed.
"You are not troubled by the unknown?"
asked Fran.
"Not really,"
Vaughn answered.
"I kind of like it that way."
She turned her eyes forward once more with a subtle smirk.
"You might make a fair pirate after all." "Someone's been keeping track of how we're going to get out of here, right?"
Penelo asked.
"Don't worry,"
said Ash, thinking at first to expand on the sentiment, but then realizing she did not know how.
"Somehow,"
said Bolthier,
"I don't see this ending well for any of us." "And you think your cynicism is going to help?"
asked Bosch. Bolthier laughed.
"It's never steered me wrong before."
Presently, they came to a solid wall, a dead end, so it seemed, on which there was etched and painted a sprawling mural that depicted many humans prostrated before a great glowing stone held aloft on a pedestal. A man stood before the stone, sword drawn, and they each wondered if the people in the painting indeed bowed to the stone or to the man.
"Is that Nethysite?"
Ash asked softly, receiving only worrisome looks in response. She deftly touched her fingers to the wall, tracing them over the carved figure.
"With that much? We could destroy all of Ivalice."
Fran spoke bluntly, drawing the attention of the others.
"If we wished it,"
she finished after a moment.
"They mine magicite in Boucherba,"
said Penelo.
"You think maybe they mine Nethysite here?" "That would explain why the place is bloody empty,"
Bolthier answered.
"Maybe we should go back,"
Vaughn suggested.
"I mean, so we can look closer. If this is a mine, we might have missed something." "It's possible,"
Ash replied.
"And if not, we may as well turn back anyway. Come on."
And so they inspected the floor and the walls, what they could reach of them, shooing away the mist to gain a clearer view only to have it sweep back in around them moments later. The princess appeared somewhat dazed, and while the others passed it off on their eerie surroundings, she could swear that she had once again heard her name whispered amid the silvery clouds. It grew more and more distant with each step she took from the mural, echoing off the stone, cutting its path through the mist, and when she at last decided to return to the dead end, she noticed Bosch watching her critically.
"Are you feeling well?"
he asked, clearly hoping not to draw her ire.
"Of course,"
she answered shortly, walking on after the others.
"You look ill,"
Bosch continued.
"Manners, Captain. This doesn't feel right."
Ash resisted, rolling her eyes once more.
"You're being a babysitter again. Can you blame me? According to Vaughn, you aren't half as cautious on your own." "Ash."
She paused and met his eyes upon hearing the earnestness of his tone.
"Don't forget Nabudis."
After studying his expression for a moment, she wrinkled her nose and walked away, subduing her anger if only for her growing exhaustion of expressing it, but she had barely turned a corner when an invisible grasp seized her by the arm and dragged her through the stone as though it were a vertical pool of water. Beyond the mystical barrier her arm was released, and she stood seemingly on the clouds, though she felt beneath her feet a pulsating energy. Around her vast puffs of mist swirled, reflecting her image back to her with sometimes hazy, sometimes precise accuracy, and the sun struggled to press its way through, lending a gleaming powder blue sheen to her vague surroundings. She glanced over her right shoulder, and next over her left, but found herself to indeed be unaccompanied.
"Where is everyone?"
she called dumbly. The mist billowed, and suddenly a trembling voice resonated from the distance.
"Fear not, Princess of Dalmasca."
She spun on her heel, but could find nothing.
"We have chosen you and you alone."
At last, a figure shimmered among the clouds, elusive as the skin of a bubble, and yet solid as the trunk of an oak. Ashalia stepped back as a ray of sun filtered through the creature and danced at her feet, then stumbled over what she intended to be a demand.
"What, who?" "My name is Garun."
The voice floated past her ears unevenly, neither male nor female, weak nor strong. She shuddered.
"I come to you representing all others who are as myself. You and other humans have called us gods, but we call ourselves Akuaria, for we have named all others in Ivalice and will not be named in turn by them." "Gods?"
Ash asked.
"Calm your doubts, Ashalia, we offer you our assistance. One of our kind works alongside your enemy, one named Vina. Dr. Sid follows blindly what he perceives to be divine instruction, and this has led to turmoil in Ivalice. Through you, we intend to make right these wrongs." "You've done this before, haven't you? It was you who aided Wraithwall in the last war." "Yes, very good. Unfortunately, his reign has not lasted. We see your heart desires power, and power most holy shall we grant. Seek you the Sun Christ, our slumbering star, in tower on distant shore, it dreams. The mother of all Nethisit. The source of its unending power. The Dynast King's fallow shards were but coarse trinkets cut from the Sun Christ's light."
She took a quick step forward, but soon quelled her excitement.
"Such power exists. In times that are long passed away,"
Garun explained,
"we thought to save this Ivalice, and chose Wraithwall, the noblest of humans. He took the sword and cut the Christ. 3 shards he took from its gilt grasp, and so became the Dynast King. His words and deeds run through your veins. That's why I was given his sword. The treaty held with kings of old is but a memory, cold and still. With you, we shall now treat anew, to cut a run for history's flow.
Mist gathered before her, gaining density and taking shape. There momentarily appeared a sort of elegant design and alien decor, which hovered within her grasp, though she felt uneasy at the thought of touching it. Garon's glistening voice sounded onward,
"Now take this sword, our treaty blade, Aquarian steel, mark of your worth. Cut deep the crest, and seize your shards. Wield the Dynast King's power, and use it to destroy Vina."
"But..." Ash stuttered, unable to gain steady control of her tongue.
"Isn't Vina an Aquarian? Vina is a heretic."
And she quickly jumped back once again, squinting her eyes shut against the gale of wind Garon's outburst forced over her.
"The Nethysite is ours to give, to chosen bearer or to none. The heretic trespassed, and set the rose of knowledge in man's hands. With imitations, they profane. It is anathema to us. We give you now the stone and task. Administer judgment, destroy them all." "Judgment?"
Ashalia's brow furrowed, though she fought to conceal her emotions from this creature, and the mist once again assembled, this time behind the sword, this time taking a human form. Her eyes grew cold as Rasslor's empty image shimmered before her, fleeting in its presence, but always returning faintly just as she thought it had vanished. The blade between them flickered.
"A great purge of those who would let foolish men have dominion over our Ivalice,"
Garon continued, golden eyes swirling with light.
"You shall do as King Wraithwall once did, destroy those who oppose your superior rule, and replace them with more suitable houses." "The Empire?"
Ash asked, eyes set on Rasslor.
"When House Rosaria refused Wraithwall's treaty, they were cut down that House Margrace might serve in their stead. When House Arcadia sought to defend the Rosarian rebels, they were crushed, and their throne given to House Solidor." "What? You take your history from the pages of books, from the words of mortals. We have lived our history. Only in us does the truth reside." "Then you would have me reforge the Galtian alliance?" "Reforge and strengthen, for the good of all humans. The houses of Margrace and Solidor are shamed, blasphemous. Their blood must be spent, and their inheritance returned to its rightful proprietor, you, our chosen representative, Ashalia Bunargan Dalmasca, the Dynast Queen." "But why destroy them?"
she asked, gaining use of her voice only to lose control of her words.
"Every line has a weak link. Is that really enough to?" "It is more than enough."
Garon snarled.
"The houses must be extinguished. Dalmasca shall know no borders. Truly, in time, Ivalice will come to be known solely as Dalmasca. Rosaria drew war across your land. Arcadia stole away your freedom. What they have done will be done to them. Dethrone the royals, ravage them with your limitless power, and take their land for your own."
Ashalia grit her teeth.
"You would have me lower myself to such measures?" "Lower?"
The Aquaria scoffed, its black lacquer body gleaming in the sunlight.
"Lower yourself to save humanity? Differing countries bring only violence to each other, you know this well. You will rule them as one country, follow in Wraithwall's footsteps, bring peace to Ivalice. Then it is for the good of all." "Indeed."
The voice grew gentler, contemplative, and the dark, detail-starved figure among the puffs of mist from which it came wavered in its solidity.
"The humans ever skew history's weave. With haste, they move through too short lives. Driven to err by base desires, toward waste and wasting on they run. Undying, we Aquaria light the path for wayward sons of man. Oft did we pass judgment on them, so that Evilise might endure. We are history's eternal stewards, to set the course and keep it true. The chosen is our hand, our fist, to let live some and crush the rest. Princess, you have been chosen. Take revenge against those who stole your kingdom. Fulfill your role as savior. Attain to your birthright.
She blinked slowly, fighting the mesmerizing effect the mist took on her, and once again cast her glance to the shimmering image of her husband. A smile, it seemed, overcame his expression, the look of a brewing plot in their youth, but the mirage fluttered and faded, not disappearing, but certainly not taking permanence. Ashalia reached out her hand, failing to notice the absence of her wedding ring, and took the hilt of the mist-born sword. Rassler vanished in a wisp of mist. And then she felt the nakedness of her finger.
Ash!
She turned suddenly, feeling the whip of her short hair against her neck, and found Vaughn charging up to her.
What's with these Aquaria things?
He demanded.
What gives them the right to tell you what to do?
Looking back over her shoulder, she found no trace of Garun, noticing instead that the mist that had so suddenly enveloped her quickly dissipated at her feet, dissolving into the stonework of the weakly throbbing floor beneath them. No walls fended off the noon sunlight, and the cobbled platform on which they stood appeared to be held aloft by nothing of mortal construct, though she did spy a staircase at the far end of it, from whence the others came toward her.
Will you take revenge, as it asks?
Fran asked. Ash's eyes widened with confusion, and she turned to Bosch for an answer.
We could not see it, he explained, but we heard it speak. You're not gonna do it, right Ash?
Penelo chirped.
I mean, you can't. Like hell she can't.
Vaughn injected.
This is it, we've practically got Dalmasca back already. What?
Bosch asked, clearly shocked by the boy's sudden bloodlust.
They may be gods, but we are the arbiters of our destiny. The Empire must pay, but destruction. Perhaps a compromise, said Fran. Not total destruction, just the threat of it. That's just as bad,
Penelo whined.
All it would take is a demonstration on Vane,
Vaughn defended in response. Penelo lowered a piercing glare on him.
And Monty?
Finally, Bolthier stepped in, conspicuously close to the princess's side.
Hey, she's the one it wanted to talk to, why don't we just let her decide?
Ash's eyes fell to the blade in her hands, and she faintly chewed her lip in indecision before Bolthier spoke up again.
No need to rush, anyway. We've officially screwed ourselves over for the time being. What?
Asked Vaughn.
We beat Dr. Sid here.
Penelo added.
He's not coming,
Bolthier replied.
Never was. He laid out the bait, and we bit. All that flaunting back at the lab, just to bring Ash to the Aquaria. Cocky old bastard. But if we get a hold of the Nethysite, wouldn't that be bad for the Empire?
Vaughn asked.
How do we know he's in this for the Empire?
Bolthier pondered aloud.
Maybe he wants to see what happens when foes with Nethysite collide. That would be just like him. His motives don't matter at this point,
said the princess.
We must first search out the Sun Crest, right? Is that a question?
Fran asked. Ash grit her teeth.
How are we to find it if all we have to go on is a tower on a distant shore?
Bosch injected, noting the princess's mood.
Maybe we can go back to Reda's for help,
Penelo suggested with a perky hop. Balthier huffed a small laugh.
I'd rather stay out of that pirate's debt, thank you. What's wrong with him?
Vaughn asked.
I mean, if you can't trust your own kind, who can you trust? You're an expert on pirating now, are you?
Balthier scoffed.
I owe him enough as it is, and this may get him more involved than he cares to be. Well, that's his problem, isn't it?
Ash snapped, turning to walk away with Bosch and the kids at her heels. Fran smirked at Balthier and followed the others, he a step behind.